What is up to the transparency? Welcome Sunday night live.
Listen, folks, I know there's a history here. I'd like to get this hearing in today. You know, everybody needs to just focus on the relevant facts, okay? I know there's a history here. I know.
Are you talking up by Sunset Mart? Up the hill by the gas station?
Yeah.
Okay. Why did you? All right. Who's responsible here?
What's that?
Who's responsible here? Whose house is this?
Yeah, have been drinking or anything, right?
No.
Okay. Drive careful, okay?
Thank you.
This is what the other group had that ran away.
Oh, really?
They just did shit.
Awesome.
Yeah, those ones kept walking in the car. And the other one.
It's truly for the win.
That I was given to. So there was 2 different discs. Okay? They all knew about it.
We're not here to talk about the alcohol stuff, okay?
Okay, yeah.
But this is the second noise complaint we've had here tonight within 2 hours.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Is this your place?
Yeah.
Perfect. You know why we're here?
I see noise.
Noise, yeah.
Yeah.
Big speaker right there.
Yeah.
Nothing against having a party. Once neighbors start calling in, then we have an issue.
Like brains, and like if you need a lot of brains, you're gonna be in trouble.
From the Pullman chief of police.
What is up to the transparency? Brent Kopacka's FOIA request. It's in. Just a reminder to be nice to one another tonight if you're in chat.
Literally just moments ago, who gave us a slight update on the situation. So now we did learn that around 8:37 last night, police received a phone call from actually this apartment complex right behind us. And they didn't tell us who called, but we do know that a man in his 30s was threatening to harm his roommates. So at that time, police did respond. They were able to get those 2 roommates out safely. We're told that they're doing fine at this time, but we're also told that a member of the SWAT unit did shoot and kill that 30-year-old suspect who was threatening to harm his roommates. Now, again, police have told us that this is the early stages of the investigation, so they are continuing to work. And again, this is a very active scene behind me right now. While we just got here at this area, we saw another couple of police cars who pulled up from Pullman Police, but we're also told that Washington State Police are actually on their way as well. They're the ones who actually have to clear this scene. As you can see, there's still a lot of crime tape, and this section of the street right near Stadium Way is still closed off. Traffic is being slightly rerouted, but it's not a major impact to traffic in the area just yet. There's just a few lanes that are closed and people are taking the slight detour in the area as well. So now we're going to continue gathering more information for you all and try and speak to some students here who are impacted because, of course, this is late in the semester. I'm sure a lot of people have finals and those late classes to get to, or early classes rather, to get to this morning. So we're going to continue gathering the latest.
So on December 14th, 2022, at about 8:37 p.m., our officers were dispatched to the 1000 block of Latah Street for a weapon offense. Officers learned a male in his 30s was threatening to kill his roommates. The roommates were evacuated from the apartment, and police officers attempted to speak with that male, who barricaded himself inside of his apartment. Pullman PD crisis negotiators and the Whitman County Regional SWAT team responded. The suspect began firing from his apartment. The area was evacuated. After unsuccessful negotiations, his escalating behavior, and a continued danger to the public and others, the male was shot by a member of the Whitman County Regional SWAT team. The suspect was found deceased when the Whitman County Regional SWAT team cleared the apartment. On behalf of the Whitman County Regional SWAT team, Pullman PD has requested assistance of the Washington State Patrol to investigate the officer-involved shooting. Further information will be released by the Washington State Patrol. Per RCW 43102, this investigation must be completely independent of the agency whose officer was involved in the use of deadly force. The Whitman County Regional SWAT team is made up of officers from the Whitman County Sheriff's Office, Pullman Police Department, and the WSU Police Department. Thank you. I don't really have anything more I can give you at this time.
Or I just mean, like to some things that I heard, but I want to make sure it's right. Like from
Okay.
what you said. What was the block number for the apartment?
In the 1000 block of Latah.
1000 block of Latah. Okay, and you said it was a man in his 30s threatening to kill his roommate?
Yes.
Okay.
Did his roommates get out?
Yes.
Do you know when that call came in?
8:37.
Has that officer been put on administrative leave?
Right now, we're in the very beginning stages of this investigation, and Washington State Patrol will be conducting that investigation.
Do we know the status of the roommates yet? Or how many there were?
There were 2 roommates that were evacuated, and they're fine.
Was that before or after the firing started?
Before.
This is a list of all of the responding officers that were involved in this incident. This is how the phone call was received. C-Cell 911. 2036 in 9 seconds. 12/14/2022. The occurrence was 8:36 in flat seconds to 9 seconds.
Who explained to us, gave us a little bit more of a timeline of events as far as what happened here. So they told us around 8:37 last night, they received a phone call from some people who lived in an apartment complex not too far from where we are. Right now we're at Stadium in Maine here, just right across from WSU's campus. And they told us that at that time they received a phone call from residents at that apartment saying that, that one of the people in that apartment was threatening to harm and kill some of their other roommates. Now, there were 2 other roommates that were in the apartment at that time. Police were able to get them out safely. We're told that they're doing fine. But that 30-year-old suspect who made those threats, the male in his 30s, we are told that officers did shoot and kill him. Now, we were able again to speak to the chief of police.
The roommates were interviewed between 8:30 p.m. and 9 p.m., almost teetering into 9:30 p.m. And neither of those 2 alleged roommates said they were in fear due to Brent threatening to kill them. No report has that.
Pullman, and here's a little bit about what he had to say about the situation.
His escalating behavior and a continued danger to the public and others, the male was shot by a member of the Whitman County Regional SWAT team. The suspect was found deceased when the Whitman County Regional SWAT team cleared the apartment.
Breaking news from the WSU campus this morning. A SWAT team operation near the south side of the Pullman campus had students sheltering in place for hours overnight and into this morning.
But that standoff ended with one man being shot and killed. Desi Richards live in Pullman with the latest.
Yes, an officer with the Whitman County Regional SWAT team shot and killed a man in his 30s who was threatening to kill his 2 roommates at an apartment here on the 1000 block of Southeast Latah Street. Right now, we're seeing more activity down at the scene. Officers, investigators on scene. We have WSP who's investigating this incident right now, and this area is going to be blocked off for some time. We know that man was threatening to kill his 2 roommates
Now, what you guys are about to see is a 27-minute pre-recorded video to help all of your guys' brains catch up with Lana brains. So I did this as best as I felt that the consumer could take the information and be able to process it. And I broke it down in a way that worked chronologically for all of you guys. That's how normally you guys should read something as in chronological order. The reports were not in that way. I took them and put them in chronological order because I was all about finding out what happened to kick all of this off. What happened at 8:35 when there was a phone call made and the police are sent out. So enjoy this 27 minutes of Lana Brains broken down for all of you guys, though, to understand it in what I would believe is the best way possible. At approximately 8:45 p.m., Officer Lamley was currently speaking with two males in the parking lot outside the apartment complex, who later were determined to be the roommates of the individual that was the focus of the Pullman Police Department's investigation. Officer Lamley tells the roommates the police are going to try and end the situation peacefully and ask the roommates if there was anyone else in the apartment other than the person who was making the threats. The answer to the question was not audible when we were listening to the audio on the log. But the fact that Officer Lamley quickly moves on to another question leads one to believe the answer was no. One of the individuals states that a person named Brent is in the apartment. Officer Lamley asked them to tell her everything they knew about Brent as quickly as they could. Again, this was at 8:54 p.m. A male who identified himself as Jordan Baker, tells Officer Lamley he believed Brent Kopacka, the suspect, has some type of mental illness and that he sometimes drinks. Jordan described Kopacka as a 35-year-old white male with a small stature. Officer Lamley ends her conversation with the males and leaves to obtain a ballistic shield. At 9:22 p.m., the final video clip labeled Officer Janovich meets up with Officer Lamley and Christian Yannon, roommate to Brent Kopacka. Officer Lamley speaks with Christian Yannon and asks him several questions about what he knew about Brent Kopacka. Yannon tells Lamley he does not know much about Kopacka, but does state he knew Kopacka had served in the Army and that Kopacka had told him he suffered from PTSD. Yannon told Officer Lamley that today, Brent had one of his episodes where he goes off ranting and throwing stuff. Officer Lamley asked if Kopacka had said anything about shooting anybody. Yannon replied, he did honestly. He said he was going to shoot somebody. He said something about letting his brother go, and he asked me before if I had ever fought his brother, but I've never met anybody or anyone from his family. Officer Lamley asked Yannon what Kopacka meant when he said something about letting his brother go. Yannon said Kopacka made it sound like someone was holding his brother against his will. Officer Lamley asked Yannon if he believed he or his roommates, as in plural, were the target of Kopacka's statements when he stated that Kopacka, was going to shoot people. Yannon said he did not believe he or his roommates, again in plural, was who Kopacka was referring to when he said he was going to shoot people. Plural. So who were the roommates of Christian Yannon? Because if it should say him or Jordan Baker, the apartment is 3 bedrooms. So if it's Jordan Baker, Christian Yannon, and Brent Kopacka, they all each have a bedroom. But if Brent Kopacka is the one that's threatening Yannon's roommates, that's plural. Who are Yannon's roommates, plural? Because it would just be, he was threatening me and my roommate. Yannon's statements were very puzzling. The plurals of the roommates, who's really Yannon's roommates? It makes it seem like that he has multiple other roommates, where he should just have one other roommate if, and in fact, Brent Kopacka is his roommate. There's only 3 bedrooms, so his statements about the roommates and the pluralness around that does not add up with the fact of only having 3 bedrooms. But more importantly, the talks of the brother, that talks about that Brent's brother is being held hostage. So I went and I found in the report, Harkins was interviewed, and Harkins says the following, that Harkins said he met Brent before when he tried to rip the panel off of his Harkins car. Harkins said Brent would stand outside of apartment 311 for long periods, and when he asked him why he was standing outside, Brent would say his brother was in the shower or asleep and he was waiting for him to let him in. Does that sound like a guy that has a key to that apartment? Does that sound like a guy that actually is the resident of that apartment? I know multiple people that have gone on and gotten leases in their names for other people that cannot obtain leases. This would not be the first, nor will it be the last. I wanted to know more of what Mr. Harkin was saying, as he was the alleged resident of apartment 301. And I came across that Mr. Harkin, he was in his apartment. He said that he heard the sound was loud when this first happened. Harkin said that he heard the cops remove a dog. Harkin said he did not open the door enough to see. Harkin said it was fuzzy what happened the next 40 minutes, but he turned on his police scanner and listened to them call SWAT. Harkin said that he remembered an officer attempting to get Brent to open the door so they could get his side of the story. Harkin said that at first Brent, would respond by opening the door, but he got yelled at as to stop and to show what he had in his hands. Harkin said after that he answered to the officers just a few more times, but it was too soft to hear. He said that he heard the sound was loud when this first happened. Harkin said that he heard the cops remove a dog. Harkin said he did not open the door enough to see. Harkin said it was fuzzy what happened the next 40 minutes, but he turned on his police scanner and listened to them call SWAT. Harkin said that he remembered an officer attempting to get Brent to open the door so they could get his side of the story. Harkin said that at first Brent, would respond by opening the door, but he got yelled at as right here. This is my boom number 6. Could this have actually been Yenna, as he was 30 to 40 minutes behind the roommate Baker being located and talked to? So keep that in your back pocket to stop and to show what he had in his hands. Harkin said after that he answered to the officers just a few more times, but it was too soft to hear. Harkin said listening to this was irritating him because of the looping questions, so he went back to playing video games. You guys remember all that? Like, Lana, go listen to the audio. It just sounds like it's looping, it's looping, it's looping. It's looping. Harkin said his girlfriend called the non-emergency phone and the cops walked them out to the back of the apartments. Harkin said that they sat in the back of the police car. There was a dog in the apartment? Whose dog did the police come and get? Number 1. Number 2, the looping of questions. All right, so Harkin had a girlfriend, and it was actually Crystal. She lived in 301, and so I wanted to see what Crystal had to say. Crystal said sometime around 8:35 p.m. she had heard a loud noise. It sounded like a firework or a gunshot sound. This was very important for me because at 8:36 is when this alleged cell phone call went out reporting a firearm offense. And it's supposedly, being threatened to kill people and blah, blah, blah. Well, here you have it. You have a gunshot being heard at 8:35 p.m. It was either that or a firework. Well, what do we think it is? I'm going with gunshot. Next, Crystal said that she heard a loud noise again. Crystal said that she went out to her balcony and saw the police running away with a dog. Crystal said that she has seen the dog from apartment 311. Crystal said within 10 minutes, she saw a police officer in the parking lot with a gun watching the balcony of apartment 311. So the police arrive after this, after the dog is taken away. So who was running with the dog and that she thought was the cops? Why would you bring a dog? Is it the dog from 311 or was it a canine dog for drugs? What went horribly wrong on the night of December 14th into the 15th? Again, Crystal said that she heard the police in the hallway asking if the remaining persons, Brent, was okay and if he was armed and if he would respond to them. Crystal said at first it seemed like Brent was cooperating as the police got him to respond, but she could not hear what Brent was saying. Crystal said after a while, it sounded like Brent opened the door as the officers were saying, now, when you open the door, you need to listen to what he tells you. Open the door, hands where we can see them, and what is at your waist, what do you have behind you? Crystal said that this did not last long, and more cops were coming to and from the stairs, while a few more with guns positioned in the parking lot. Crystal said that they had tried leaving a phone outside his door so that Brent could talk to the police with a phone since he could not be heard through the wall that well. Crystal said that they started trying to negotiate with Brent for the next hours, using a phone or anything he would talk to them, but Brent was uncooperative and she could not hear him say anything, or give any indication by the police that he was responding. Crystal said by midnight, the police were discussing charging the door, getting students away from the dorm room windows, and who was too close to the scene. Crystal said at this time, she called the non-emergency line and dispatched and asked them if they could be helped out of the apartment 301. Crystal said within a minute, they were escorted out of the apartment down the stairs, and that she had nowhere to go, so that they then sat in a patrol car outside of the apartments. Crystal said she could hear a second gunshot because the first one was at 8:35, and now the second one was coming just after midnight. Crystal said after 10 or 15 minutes, she heard 3 louder shots that came from the police. Crystal said it was quiet again from where she was for another 10 or 15 minutes until she heard a quieter shot. Crystal said it continued this way for about an hour to 2 hours, slowly increasing in frequency of how often she heard the quieter shot, until when she heard one shot every 3 to 4 minutes. This completely contradicts everybody else's accounts of when gunshots were actually beginning to start firing, which was not until 2:13 or 2:14 a.m. But according to Crystal, 3 gunshots coming from police. There is no report anywhere that any police fired any gunshots except for the sniper shooting twice. I wanted to look closer at the 8:35, 8:40, 9 o'clock time frame, and I came across a Kylie apartment 101. She had heard a loud bang crash around 8:30 or 9 p.m. from above apartment 101. Silence after was dismissed. Kaylee said that there was movement upstairs that could be heard, but often enough that happens anyway, so it was dismissed as well. Running back and forth through the halls above. No shots were heard until about midnight or 1:30 a.m., she said. In this time, there was more running upstairs and 3 loud bangs. Then she was taken by sleepy bitch disease. That was in quotes. Kaylee said that the first shot was louder. The later 3 shots were incredibly loud, enough to get her from her sleep. It was 2 bangs, followed by a minute later a third. At this point, she thought it could be gunfire, but again dismissed it. Kaylee said she was awoken by knocks on the door at about 3:34 a.m. Who could possibly give a time that is on the money of 3:34 a.m.? Again, Kaylee said that the final shot was heard about 4 a.m. Kaylee said that it was quieter than the other shots. Excuse me? Say what, motherfucker? Again, staying with that time frame of that 8 to 8:30, 9 o'clock, I came across McCoy in apartment 102. McCoy said she had gotten home around 8 or 8:25 and heard some loud noises, shuffling, sort of sounded like people arguing, so she assumed it was a couple fighting, arguing with each other. McCoy said this was above her. Then she went into her room and fell asleep and woke up around 2 a.m. and noticed cops outside of the building from her window. McCoy said that she heard a bunch of shots going off at random times from 2 a.m. until they were evacuated around 4 a.m. McCoy said certain shots were louder than others and that they were random times with sometimes longer times in between them. McCoy said that she heard quite a bit of shuffling above her throughout the time. McCoy said that she was texting with her friends while this was happening and text them updates while shots were going off. I was able to find each message she sent to her friends with timestamps, says this officer, and it says see attached statements. I would love to see those attached statements and timestamps. Next, I would come to apartment 205, Alexa. Well, Alexa says that she started to fall asleep around 8 p.m. that night and woke up to yelling and banging coming from the floor above her. Alexa said once she woke up, she heard lots of phrases like, "You are under arrest. Please come out with your hands up." And phrases like, nothing in them. "We can talk about this. We don't want to hurt you. Put the firearm down and come out with your hands up. Please respond. The phone is there for us to talk with you." Alexa said it sounded like the officers were trying to talk to him. They referred to him as either Fred or a friend. She assumed Fred, but he wasn't responding. Alexa says that they were calling the person inside this apartment Fred. Alexa said that she heard lots of coughing, then furniture moving around the apartment. Alexa said she also heard him go out to the balcony multiple times. Alexa said at one point some liquid was being poured outside, she thought. Alexa said she also heard multiple popping sounds. Alexa said eventually the SWAT team evacuated everyone. Alexa said she gathered this because they thought the building may catch fire. Alexa said she spoke with officers around 1:50 a.m. How did she speak with them? And listened to all of this above until they eventually evacuated around 3:50 a.m. So was she evacuated at 1:50 and she was just standing around outside with an active shooter? Was she in a cop car? When was she able to talk to police at 1:50 a.m.? Who did she talk to? Next up was Tracy. Tracy was from apartment 108. Tracy said that on December 14th, she arrived back at home at 8:05. Tracy said about 40 minutes later, she heard loud noises, banging, and someone talking loudly from above her. This was nothing new for her, though. She went to bed because it wasn't the first time that she had to turn up her phone and go to sleep. Tracy said that at 2 a.m., though, she was abruptly awoken by a loud banging noise. Tracy said, again, she heard someone yelling and talking loudly. Tracy said that she also heard noises near the dumpster, which is close to her side window. Tracy said that she got up since she couldn't sleep with all the noise. Tracy said that she sat in her front room for about 1 hour and 30 minutes. Tracy said that she heard banging on the doors. Tracy said that she waited a few minutes and the banging was on her door. Tracy said that she then was taken out of the apartment building because of a tenant on the third floor was trying to start a fire and firing a gun. Tracy said that they were asked to hug the side of the building as to not make themselves a target. Tracy said a shot was fired as they made their way down the street and around the shrubs. Tracy said another shot was fired. Tracy said that they waited in the cold for about an hour before a bus came. Do the math on all of that, and we're looking at an evacuation of no earlier than 4 a.m., which is very, very important. Next up would be Miss Smith from apartment 108. She said that she had heard shooting from the apartment above her starting at about 8:45 p.m. Then noises of arguing and banging and thumps. Smith said at 3:15 a.m. she heard loud pounding on their door, and they were told to evacuate as there was an active shooter going on. She said that they were escorted out of the apartment building. Before I move on to a couple other people that gave some statements that are just going to blow your mind, I want to point out that at the back of this report, they did the name of people that were involved, whether they were a witness, a victim, and it should be noted that Jordan Baker, his address is not 1000 Southeast Latah Street. It is what Truth and Transparency told you back when they did their last video, 2290 Northeast Westwood Drive. Now, it needs to be noted that these addresses that they put next to the information of whether it was a victim, whether it was a witness, they are taking it from the driver's license. Think about all of your guys' driver's license. So at the time of this incident, the driver's license address was 2290 Northeast Westwood for Jordan Baker. At the time of this incident, the driver's license address had 100 Latah. Same with Christian Yenna. Question is though, look at all of your guys' driver's license. How many of you guys have addresses that aren't current? You can't have it both ways. Jordan's ID has him at the 2290 North Westwood address, and that in fact was a new address that Jordan had in 2022. Number one. Number two, so are you going to say that he lived where? Did Jordan Baker live at Coffee House Apartments, or did he actually live on the address that's on his driver's license? But it doesn't work both ways. If you're going to say that no, that was an old address and he was actually living at 1000 Latah, well, it could work the same way for Brent Kopacka. It could work the same way for Christian Yenna. Where do these people actually live? That is just an address that is on a driver's license. That does not mean that that is their residence. So where is the actual lease signing papers for these tenants? They're not in any of the reports. Also, last note on the name of the involvements here. I have a woman that was born in 1971. Don't know if that's a typo. Tracy, 1971. And then I have another name of Mrs. Smith, and it says that she was born in 1949. Again, not sure if those are typos or not. A 1971 date of birth and a 1949 date of birth. Living at the Coffee House Apartments, WSU's campus. All right, so that was your 27 minutes pre-recorded. The way that the next 30 minutes is going to work is part 2 of this episode is titled Grace and Simon. But first, I want to go ahead and show you guys something from back a live I did back before. You can't get it anymore because they disabled the website that had it. But you cannot find the Coffee House Apartments layout anymore. You cannot find the floor plans. You can't find shit about the Coffee House Apartments. And I didn't do that live. I didn't think that long ago. So, but I am going to upload something so you guys can at least see what we're talking about here. So check it out. Transparency. Good evening. Good evening. Mods, members, subscribers, you guys are appreciated, and thank you. Part 2 of Brent Kopacka. Here we go. I want you guys to listen in. This will be played, and then it will be stopped. So.
4682, my info has to identify the people there.
That's what I like you.
Subject in the bedroom is a Jordan Baker, late 20s, and then a Brent, unknown last, 35-year-old male.
And which one supposedly has a gun?
Thank you, Dr. Latina.
First up, Brent is outside the bedroom.
update, any luck on finding that other person that got out?
My partner's talking to him now. I'm trying to get exact location. Jordan's in the back parking lot. Dark gray jacket, blue pants, red and black striped shirt. He's the one speaking with my partner. He's the one that got out.
Tonight's Ohio Lottery Mega Millions jackpot is $427 million.
All right, take a look here right there. The balcony, that is a bedroom window. It's very, very important, okay? That's a bedroom window where that balcony is. All right, balcony, bedroom window. That's that first room. So that's A. B. That's going to be this second room. And going in over here is C. And this is an end unit. So therefore, the windows are different and deceiving. We'll get into all of that, but I just wanted to at least have you guys see what we're dealing with here. Bathroom. Kitchen. Living room where the 3 bedrooms go off. So the kitchen and then your bedrooms go back off in that little area. Again, you cannot find this anywhere. So I had to go back and find this and then I had to show you guys through this way because this was all taken down off the internet. All right. So hopefully that gave you guys a reminder. So there we go. Now, saddle up. Here you go. All right. At 10 p.m., I was told, again, this is going to be on 12/15. So this is the next day. At 10 a.m., so like 4 a.m. was, people getting evacuated, but here you go. At 10 a.m., I was told a large majority of the coffee house residents had been relocated to the Washington State Recreation Center located on campus. We met with Jenna, assistant vice chancellor, blah, blah, blah. I spoke with her and the group of individuals, which is a fraction of the total of residents of the complex, and explained I didn't know how long it was going to take to investigate, but hey, we can walk you guys in there, get you guys' stuff, things of that nature. I inquired as to how many people had actually heard or seen anything related to the incident, which took place between the police and an individual living in the complex. Several people raised their hands, and I advised them that I would like to speak with them individually, okay, and obtain a written statement from them. So here they were all grouped together from, 4 or 5 a.m., 3 a.m. until 10 a.m., right? At least group of people. Whereas you're supposed to separate your witnesses and all those good things. But here they were all together. During the question and answer period, many occupants advised that they needed to get into their apartments. So what ended up happening is that these people were walked back in to those apartments. And it was noted very, very much so, like the timestamps of who went where and all those things. I'm not going to put that out there. But I do want to say that per maintenance man, apartments 107 and 109 did not have tenants. So there was one maintenance man that we noted. Okay. I also want to note that the doors there's a master code for the electronic lock. So the door was unlocked using the master code for the electronic lock. And I'm curious if that's on every single room. Anyways. Now, again, this part is titled Simon and Grace. All right. So these are the following summaries of statements I did receive back from the residents. And we are going to start with statement of Simon. Simon's apartment is directly across from the suspect's apartment. Simon completed a very detailed written statement as well as provided photos. Due to the very detailed statement, I will be providing it in its entirety instead of summarizing it. So I was really curious to see how this would work. And basically everything that Simon went ahead and did and wrote up, it was just as is. Now, be prepared to have your mind fucked. Okay? Here we go. I'm going to make this bigger. All right. At about 8:55 p.m., 3 members of the, I believe, Pullman Police Department, armed with AR pattern rifles, knocked on my door, gave a quick explanation that there was a dangerous guy across the hall, 8:55, and asked to use my room for cover concealment. My lights were turned off, the doorway held open, and used as cover. By this point, one of the shooter's roommates has been removed from the room. Black male, probably mid-20s, but the other was whereabouts unknown. This is really important. By 9/11, I was consulted. Hold on. I was consulted regarding the floor plans of rooms in the complex, as well as information on the residents, the later of which I lacked. At this point, additional officers entered the room. Also, Pullman Police Department and my furniture was used in tandem with the riot shields to erect basic fortifications in the hall and in my room. Now at 9:55, SWAT was on scene. Both armored officers in my room, and based on conversations and radio chatter, marksmen outside the building. To my knowledge, the Whitman County SWAT was the only SWAT unit on the scene. At some point around this time, I heard police description of the suspect and his whereabouts unknown roommate is successfully called on the phone. The suspect is described as a 35-year-old male named Brent, last name forgotten, 35-year-old veteran of 82nd Airborne, once hit by PTSD-induced IED blast, discharged honorably. The suspect had previously been encountered by a member of the Pullman Police Department after having a mental breakdown outside of a local restaurant, Tokyo Seoul. And it was not known to me if this event was violent. Remember I told you this all started somewhere else? Now, the roommate adds that this backstory could be false since suspect is a known liar. What? Okay. The evacuated roommate, black male, not the guy on the phone. Interesting. Yeah. Had additionally stated the suspect was armed with a rifle. Now, moving on to 1024. The negotiators have successfully lured the suspect out of his room with his hands up. Oh, I'm sorry. At 1024, several gadgets are being set up, including a foam shell-loaded 44mm grenade launcher and a quadcopter-type drone. Again, this is at 1024. Pay attention to these times. Wait till I just blow this all up. A ballistic blanket has been put over my fridge to provide cover to the negotiator, who has taken up position behind it. At some point, a second negotiator is moved into the room and the two take turns. I don't know who the fuck they want to think is going to believe all this shit, but then now we're here at 1055. The negotiators have successfully lured the suspect out of the room with his hands up. He was brought as far out as the door frame. Like what door frame? Though the object, later identified by one of the police as his phone, was still visibly in his hand. After being informed he was under arrest, the suspect became upset. Repeatedly stated he did not do anything wrong and returned to his room, shutting the door, but not all the way. You cannot see that from, as I showed you guys. When his roommate was evacuated, the door was believed to have been left unlocked. But now that the door was slightly ajar, this was a certainty. While I don't believe this ended up mattering much, it was a highly discussed tactical consideration at the time. Moving on to 1116. Again, I am just reading this in, and then I'll blow it all up. By 1116, the drone that was brought in was facing issues connecting its camera feed, and more drones were requested. At, by my count, midnight exactly, now December 15th, a 10-minute count is issued for breaching the suspect's door. I thought it was ajar. I thought it was open. As almost certainly known to you, the room has a door connecting it to the hallway, but several more inside. The plan is to breach and pull out if the suspect is not immediately seen. At about 12:15, the door is breached. The delay from the initial count is due to technical problems with the drone. One of my chairs with a shield strapped to it is used to slam the already open door more open, while also deploying the makeshift cover inside and jamming the door open. I don't remember when the last one failed, but by this point, 3 of the 4 drones have failed for the various reasons functioning, and this lack of safe intel gathering tools is causing anxiety for the door teams. I also do not know when exactly this happened, but around the same time, the 4th drone, the only working one, a quadcopter, crashes within the apartment of the suspect in without seeing him and is lost for the remainder of the standoff. Having breached the door, the police pull back into my apartment and return to planning. At 12:49, gas begins to be seriously considered. Civil considerations, including the presence of myself, are brought up as a counterpoint to the plan. At 1:21 a.m., several officers begin speculating if the suspect is dead. Why? No movement, speech, or sightings from marksmen have been heard or seen from him in over 2 hours. Even after breaching a door and flying a drone in. At some time before this point, a phone was brought from one department that was initially left outside his door and eventually thrown inside it, which rang for 45 seconds every 3 minutes and was an attempt by the negotiators to contact him. This happened long before the breach, but it at no point during the entire standoff did the suspect use the phone. So its existence really only matters as evidence towards extensive police attempts to negotiate with the suspect. At around 1:52 a.m., a gas grenade is thrown into the suspect's apartment. To my understanding, it was an OC gas grenade, specifically with an aerosol dispersal system. This chosen over the flameless ignition type in an effort to minimize fire risk. Of the people in my room, 305, right across, only Whitman SWAT, to my understanding, have gas masks. Have you guys ever... Okay, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of story. I went to OU for my sister wanted me to come down for the Halloween. OU throws the biggest Halloween parties. Well, anyways, long story short, we get tear gassed at her house. They are like flipping cars on streets, lighting fires. The SWAT's in, they start like unleashing tear gas towards and at and in or around my sister's house. Well, I'm all the way upstairs. I legit could not see. It burned my eyes. It was insane. It was ridiculous. And I was like, I'm never going back to OU, you fucking idiots. You can't party right without getting the SWAT called on you. Anyways, they're just rolling in grenades, tear gas. And this is only going to affect this one room. No, I was in a complete, I was all the way upstairs. No, we couldn't, our eyes were like bleeding. Like they were burning. It was horrible. This is all crazy. So around 1:52, yep. Pullman PD and myself are affected by the gas, but not beyond coughing and eye irritation. Okay, let me tell you something. I had to get the hell up out of there, okay? You're not just... That is the worst. One of the negotiators is especially affected, but continued his duties regardless. Coughing is heard from inside the suspect's room. They are discussing possibly being dead. Well, that's all quashed. Then, around 2:17, the first shots fired is reported. The shot in question is a single friendly, less than lethal round. However, I do not know if it was fired from outside or a foam round from the indoor 40. No effect on the suspect is reported, and this was seemingly a miss. Excuse me? Soon after, as in within 20 minutes, so do 20 minutes from this point. Now, this is what's going to be amazing. The suspect is heard barricading himself in his room. A window in his room is broken by the suspect using what? Sounds like some kind of metal tube, like a shower curtain. Motherfucker, get out of here, okay? This is seemingly done to vent the gas in his room, which has been sustained by throwing an additional 3 grenades into his room periodically. At this point, the second shots fired occurs again within 20 minutes following, 2:17, which is from the suspect, but it obviously a subsonic round. Excuse me? Implying a pistol caliber rather than the rifle his roommate had described. If I were to hazard a guess, either a subsonic loaf of a 9mm, otherwise a 32 or 38. Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Who is this? Next. The suspect begins talking again, screaming to himself or someone over the phone about cigarettes. I thought he didn't use the phone, you dumb fuck. Gotcha, Daddy. I thought he didn't use the phone, Simon. Little Sime. Negotiators attempt to use this to coax him out by promising cigarettes, but to no effect. Somewhere between 10 and 15 rounds are fired by the suspect during this time frame. What time frame? Both from the potentially pistol caliber firearm and from what was unmistakably a .22. The suspect is now believed to have multiple guns. By 3:27, a cop outside reports that he is confident the suspect is intentionally targeting police officers. OM motherfucking G. With his fire. This marks an immediate shift in attitude from the officers inside my room. Once the message is broadcast, at least one officer carrying a less than lethal arm put it down and picked up his rifle. Around 3:41 a.m., the first SWAT sniper round is fired. Seemingly a miss with no effect on the target. The shot is audible from room 305, and being supersonic is easily distant from the suspect's fire. Soon after, it is reported by SWAT marksmen that the suspect appears to be trying to start a fire. Oh, excuse me? Where? How do you see this? What are you talking about? How could you even see this? Anyways, this leads to several officers to leave my room and attempt to evacuate the partner building as completely as possible. What partner building? As the department began initially moving in and later before gas was to be deployed, there had been 2 previous distinct evacuation efforts. No, there weren't. This was the most complete and serious one to my understanding. Around 3:59 a.m., a second supersonic shot is heard, followed by an audible heavy thud across the hall. SWAT marksmen report a few seconds later it was from them and that no movement from the suspect is currently seen. Around 4:09, SWAT from my room execute a full breach. From that point on, SWAT and police rather rapidly pick up and get moving. The crime scene is secured, and everything past this point is probably both irrelevant and public knowledge. Some notes on things not mentioned or mentioned much in this timeline. Negotiations with the suspect were both nonstop and increasingly ineffective. Extreme emphasis was put on the safety of civilians and officers at all times. Then why the fuck were you there? The suspect did not seem to use a rifle caliber firearm the entire time, in spite of his roommate's report that said it was obviously assumed he had one. I was given three distinct opportunities to be evacuated from my room. However, was never told it would be helpful to the police to do so, even when I asked. So I chose to stay over my own will, or of my own will. While in the room, I was able to provide help with the floor plans. I thought you couldn't do that. Help with managing and setting up gear and provide food and water. Say what, motherfucker? The initial warrant for entry into the suspect's residence seems to have been felony harassment. It should go without saying, but I swear this is all the truth as I experienced it, and I have tried to make an effort to make it clear whenever I was uncertain of fact. If this absolutely must be put on a statement form, I can try to do that, but just a direct email is much easier for me. Enclosed are some photographs I took, though I did not take many, and most of them of this is probably known thanks to body and helmet cams. Well, won't you be amazed? that you just saved the day for me. Thanks, bro. So basically he's saying that the people that he saw had on body cams, which I believe were turned on by at least one department in my room. Who wears these and doesn't use them? Now, it is my personal opinion and belief that all officers involved demonstrated a very high level of competence, patience, professionalism. Dude, just talk about a blow fest. There you go, buddy. Good job, Simon. Way to blow the department. I was extremely impressed by the department's ability to resolve the situation with, to my knowledge, no serious injury to any innocents or officers. Simon, you damn lost your mind. Okay, so now, again, welcome to the transparency. Now, I told you it was Simon and Grace. Simon and Grace. Here we go. I about lost my shit. First of all, I read that and I was like, I said, holy shit, I didn't realize I'm going to saddle up and read this novel. But more importantly, then I get to a woman named Grace. She was a visitor. Her boyfriend lived in apartment 209. But what Grace said she did, here we go. Saddle up. Grace, again, visitor. This is a written statement. On the evening of December 14th, I arrived at my boyfriend's, Jordan's, apartment, number 209, around that time. When I arrived, I saw multiple police cars outside, and as I was walking up to the apartment, I was told to stay away from apartment 311. Who told you this, girl? When I got inside, we turned on the police scanner to listen to the information and try to figure out what was going on. After a while of listening to the police scanner, we noticed that there was an officer pointing some kind of gun at apartment 311. And heard on the police scanner that they were evacuating the surrounding apartments along with trying to negotiate with the suspect. A while later, we saw an armed vehicle outside the apartment, and the negotiation team set up their station outside of Jordan's apartment door. Excuse me? Okay. Totally clashing already. Next. Around this time, we heard tear gas being shot into the window of the apartment. This is, again, their version of events. Around this time, tear gas being shot. And then the suspect began threatening to shoot his gun. Look at this. At 2:14 a.m., bitch, please. We heard the first shot from the suspect and a confirmed shots fired on the police scanner. Below was, meanwhile, other people are talking about looping. Below is a list of the suspect, or I'm sorry, below is a list of the times throughout the night that the suspect fired his weapon that I was able to document. My boyfriend and his roommates said there were more that I missed. I cannot even begin to tell you what I'm about to show you here. Here we go. Well, first of all, before I go any further with this just fuckerage right here. Okay. I compared this to what I have here is I have the officer's timestamps from his body cam. There's only one officer that they used a body cam from. And so I compared these timestamps, okay, to the officer's body cam of what the officer said he did. Like in his report, based on just writing his report based off of listening to and watching his body cam. Okay. So she says that at 2:14, one shot, 2:23, one shot. 2:45, 2:47, 2:48. These are all identical to the police. One shot at 2:48, 2:49 on body cam. 3 shots at 3:01. WSU Pullman sent out an alert at 3:02. 1 shot at 3:08, 1 shot at 3:18, 1 shot at 3:21. She was off by, like I said, 0 seconds. 3 shots at 3:25, off by 2 minutes, but not really, because then I realized that they just lumped in this together when he wrote his report. 2 shots at 3:29. Suspect began to threaten to shoot people. Wow, identical to body cam. Ha ha ha. 1 shot at 3:38, 2 shots at 3:40, 1 shot at 3:41, 2 shots at 3:43, 1 shot at 3:45, off by a minute. And what I mean by that, all right, here we go. There was only one officer that had body cam that was submitted, and it was 6 cameras. So. Unbelievable. But I'm going to wait for that. I'm going to show you guys that on the part 2. So, because it's just a lot to digest. It's just a lot. So, Jesus. So, any questions? But basically, I'll leave that up there, though. I was able to document who stays in an active shooting situation to document 24 shots. I mean, I've just never heard of anything like that. In my entire life, I've never heard of officers letting somebody stay in a SWAT situation where you're asking everybody to leave and you're going to keep somebody there. But I was breaking all this stuff down. But these shots all line up with when the one officer, nobody had body cams, somebody had dash cams. There was just one. There's just a lot more. So I want to keep it clear and concise for you guys. So nobody saw Brent. You know, if you go back and you read the stuff, nobody saw him. So you're seeing like a wrist, you're seeing like a muzzle of a gun. But there's nobody, you know, that saw him. So if you actually want to back up from the beginning of this episode, Brent would be waiting outside of that apartment for his brother to either get done showering or get up from sleeping to be let into the apartment. So again, when I break it down, Tuesday nights, you will hear the cops, and then we're going to compare everything, and I'll be putting out a timeline to show you guys that none of this is accurate. It's all a bunch of lies, and it's just fucking unbelievable. Unbelievable. But there is no video on the drone, Lana. Correct. There's no video. Wait till you hear what they said. They said that it was crashing into the wall of the hallway of like the apartment. They were inside the apartment and it was hitting like the wall, and then it would fall, and they would try to like get it to lift up. So it's hard to see these questions coming that fast, but if you crash, it doesn't stop working. It wasn't stop working. It couldn't get up. That's what they were saying. I'm not here to defend anybody. I just put in order. These reports are completely out of order. I put everything in chronological order, but for someone that says that they're going to sit in a room and do this and write on a piece of paper of when they heard gunshots, who the hell would do that? So there is no Simon and Grace are not correct. Oh, these are really people. They're real people. They're real people. I mean, I don't know what officers would ever let a civilian be in their command room. I mean, do you guys understand that? Do you understand what that guy was claiming? That a civilian in a shootout was in a room. You understand that? In a command room. Taking notes, and then in another room taking notes. Let's compare this. When he says, all right. Here you go. I got it for you guys. I won't make you wait. This is your narrative. Okay, when you want to talk about a narrative, this is your narrative. And Grace, it's a different Jordan. Just so you guys know, Grace's boyfriend's name is spelled differently, and it's a totally different last name. That's not anything. But so see how it says at 1:11, I deployed my drone in the hallway outside. So if you go to Homie G's, see when he says that drone came. Right here. So it says 1:11, 12:15. 3 of the 4 drones, 1 quad, and 2 whatever have failed for various reasons to function. So that's at 12:15. This officer is saying that I deployed my drone in the hallway outside of Kopacka's apartment. The drone wasn't equipped with propeller guards. During the initial flight, the drone struck the wall and fell to the ground outside of the apartment. I recorded the flight. The footage didn't reveal anything other than what we had already observed. A cover team moved up and moved the drone onto the seat of the chair, holding the door open. Okay. Again, so this is happening allegedly at 1:11. This guy saying that this shit had already happened at 12:15. Good old Simon. Okay. Then again, what he says is that prior to this point, okay, all timestamps in this report are retrieved from the radio log. The only person that activated their camera was this man at 1:47 a.m. There is no footage, allegedly, by anybody. None of these dudes had their cameras on. And this guy wasn't even part of the initial, being in that room across the hall. That's none of that. That's not who this person was. But you're going to find that out when it gets broken down tomorrow or on Tuesday. But those of you guys that can't wait, so he's saying that, so just so you guys can see a kind of a picture here. Okay. That door's over here, the front door. So then you have that's the living room, and then back over here, and then you have the 3 bedrooms that sprawl off like that, and then the bathroom. Now, again, he activated his body cam at 1:47. After this point, all timestamps are retrieved from the body cam footage. So after 1:45 a.m., I could hear the negotiator's throw phone continuing to ring. At approximately 1:52, one handheld, again, was successfully hand-delivered to the north side of the apartment near the north bedroom. How? Would you roll it in there? At 2:01, one more handheld grenade was successfully hand-delivered to the north side of the apartment near the north bedroom. So were you inside the apartment? At approximately 2:12, they're trying to say that Brent could be heard throwing objects around. It sounded like Kopacka was barricading himself in there. Then you compare that to so 2:14, ready? At approximately 2:14, another officer radioed that Kopacka could be heard racking the slide of a gun and yelling threats. At 2:14, Kopacka fired one round. 2:14. Then negotiator, he's not even on the list of people that were dispatched. .223, I could hear Kopacka cursing and yelling about a cell phone. Then Kopacka fired another round at 2:23. 2:23. This is from a civilian. Just nailing it with these times. One shot at 2:45. So we go to 2:45. What happens? At approximately 2:45, Kopacka fired a third time. 2:45. A third time. 2:45. Kopacka fired a third time. Again, these are all from the timestamps of a body cam. Do you guys understand how fucked up this is? I mean, I'm showing you guys, like, again, this is Grace. This is what she did. She sat in her room every time she heard a gunshot. Wrote down the time, wrote down the gunshot. Next up. She has 2:47. 2:47 at approximately a fourth time. 2:47. That's her fourth shot. And she has 2:48. This has approximately 2:49. Fires, so she's off, like I said, by a minute. At approximately 3, can't get them all right. Sergeant Harris fired less lethal again at 3 o'clock. She doesn't mention the tear gas, but she got 3 shots at 3:01. At approximately 3:01, Kopacka fired a 6th and 7th round. At approximately 3:02, Kopacka fired an 8th. So like they're doing it like that. But join me next time. We're going to get this pumping, but this is to show you guys that this is just absolutely craziness. But join me back on Tuesday and we will finish it up there. This November 29th, 4 people that were murdered, and you want to fuck around. You got 8 families that are being affected by this, and they just mean nobody from the universe.
Shock value. And so what he did was he had taken pictures
pictures, California.
Oh, you're from. I would be outraged if I live in Moscow right now. I'd be lighting some cars on fire out there. I'd be flipping some cars. I'd get the frats going wild with me. Let's get some noise complaints going.